talking about a little bit of an older set, not kids, but people who are entering the job market or changing jobs, it seems to me that the correct advice is do a job that you like and that you love every day, as opposed to something that's going to get you some future objective, right? I mean, I think part of the reason that my friends and colleagues at the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District, where I was for a lot of time, I think now that I am thinking about these issues in these terms, I never thought about these issues in these terms before, right? You're doing your job, and the job is to make sure that you're doing justice. That the premium was not placed on getting the conviction, although that's gratifying, and vindicating the rights of a victim and getting proceeds back to a victim who may have been robbed of their money in their bank accounts, et cetera, et cetera. But the joy and the satisfaction came from every day doing the job and talking to witnesses and appearing in court as proof on this question. And I don't know how many people appreciate this. People who are in those prosecuting jobs, particularly at really high performing offices like my former office, are literally leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table. I was able to persuade people to come back from private practice. And in private practice in New York, we're talking about millions of dollars coming back to work for, a very good wage still in America, but like $150,000. Yeah. The only reason you would do that, I think, is if the job brought you great satisfaction. And that, for that community, which is one of the reasons I thought it was special, that was more important than making money. Do we need more jobs like that?
Oh, I think definitely. Or we need to find ways to kind of bring the parts of the process that we really enjoy to those jobs, right? Because, if you're a high-powered lawyer in private practice in New York, you might have the option to switch to be a prosecutor, or maybe you have enough money to retire and, become a, glassblower or something. Not everybody has that privilege. And so there's an open question: if your job isn't so flexible, what are some ways you can bring the sense of values and purpose to this job? And here's a spot where I really love the work of my former colleague at Yale, who's now at the University of Pennsylvania, Amy Resninsky. She does a lot of work on this process that she calls job crafting. And the idea is that with job crafting, you kind of sit down and you think, what are my strengths? What are my values? Maybe for these prosecutors who join, who kind of lose some money, but kind of take this new job. Well, it's really like working with people, or I care about justice, right? Like I really care about fairness and I want to fight. Maybe it's bravery, right? Like I got to push myself all the time, kind of like fight these big fights, whatever it is, right? We could come up with all these different kind of strengths and values. The idea of job crafting is you take your normal job description and you figure out a way to bring those values in, no matter what it is. And the reason I love Amy's work is that she studies job crafting, again, not in attorneys, not in podcasters. She studies job crafting in hospital janitorial staff workers, right? So these are people who are washing people's linen and cleaning the floors when people get sick. And she finds that between a quarter to a third of them really report that their job is a calling. They have to get paid, but they love their job and they would show up even if they weren't getting paid. And those individuals tend to be the ones that spontaneously job craft. They're like bringing their values in. She tells these lovely stories. One was a story of a janitorial staff worker who worked in a chemotherapy ward. And if you're listening now and you've had the unfortune to have to get chemotherapy, often makes people sick. So a big part of this guy's job was actually cleaning up vomit in the room. But he said, well, that wasn't my job. My values are kind of social intelligence and humor and empathy, right? I wanted to make these patients laugh. And so every time he had to go up and clean some vomit, he would joke. He's like, oh, this looks like a big spill. I'm going to get overtime. And, you're laughing. He was like, the people laughed. And like, that was my job. That's why I show up at work every day, right? And so I love Amy's work because it shows if you can get creative about job crafting as a guy who cleans up vomit in a hospital, like for most of the people listening right now, you can get creative about your own job too. The key is like figure out, what things get me going? What do I really like? And then ask the question, how can I infuse more of that into what I do every day?